So I supervise the women's department, general surgery, ENT, urology, and the allergy department and cardiology. So that just gives you a little bit about me. Basically, I'm here today to talk to you about self-care and your classroom management. So big point would be self-care. I'm going to show you a little YouTube clip first. It's just kind of a general, real quick tidbits on self-care and what you can do to help you in your self-care plan. We will be making your own self-care plans here in a bit with me. So just think about everything that we talk about, and I want you to apply it to yourself. Okay, so everything is moldable to you. So just take away what you can and apply it to any situation that interests you.
Hey there, let's talk about self-care. Now, Parks and Rec, of course, is pretty great, but self-care is more than just treating yourself. Self-care is not a reward, though sometimes that can be part of it. It's a vital piece of the ongoing process of being a human. To quote the self-help classic Codependent No More, self-care is an attitude that says, I am responsible for myself. In other words, I am my responsibility, and I will honor that responsibility as I would anything else that was precious to me. So let's make an action plan for using self-care to make our lives more awesome. Step 1. Recognize that it is indeed okay to take care of yourself. Nay, it is not just okay, it is smart. As Lifehacker puts it, self-care helps prevent burnout, reduces the negative psychological and physical effects of stress, and helps you refocus on what's true and important. Like, there's an entire peer-reviewed international journal on burnout. This is like a real big difficult problem to solve. Now, this may seem counterintuitive, but it actually makes you more productive, not less, to set time aside for yourself. And regardless of your productivity levels, recognize that you are a human being, and that is enough to warrant compassion and kindness. For real. Step 2, ideally before the need strikes, research outwardly and inwardly what self-care means and what works for you. There are self-care actions that can help pretty much everyone: getting proper nutrition, some exercise, enough sleep, hydrating, and taking small breaks throughout the workday. I like to go for walks, and I like to be forced to do it by my friends or family or baby. We'll link to a list of almost 50 self-care actions down in the doobly-doo. But everyone is unique, so it's important to ask what actions make me feel better. Journaling, texting something nice to a friend, like watching videos of pug puppies, doing a bunch of push-ups, pillow fights, putting some projects on the back burner maybe. I personally am all in for the baby cuddles. I have a baby now, and I feel like I'm doing a thing that I was designed for, and that I need to be doing, and that I also just really like. Sometimes he's angry though, and he yells at me, but most of the time I get cuddles. Now, one possible self-care action from us to you: start a digital warm and fuzzy file and fill it with compliments or kind words you've received, good memories, and favorite photos. Like, I have to admit, I get lots of people saying nice things about me on the internet, and that helps get me through the day. Being able to look through this file when you're feeling down might go a long way to bringing you back up. You want this list to be both ample and flexible, and you may even want to break it into different categories. For instance, T. Michael Martin, the fellow who wrote this script, by the way, has a spreadsheet of self-care actions organized by types of negative experiences. After all, the self-care you need while you're depressed may not be the same self-care that helps when you're overwhelmed with work. Also, if other people are involved in these self-care actions, it's totally cool to let them know now that they are part of your action plan. They may not always be available, but odds are if they're a good friend, they're gonna do their best to do their part. Step 3, self-care powers activate. It's best if you can recognize the warning signs that you could use some self-care before things go into the red zone. For me, by the way, it's when I notice my fingers going to websites that I didn't intend on going to. Like, just typing in reddit.com when I have a ton of work to do is a sign that I should go for maybe a little walk to recharge the batteries. If you're keeping a journal, you might notice a pattern or two in your behavior. Perhaps you'll notice a bleaker mood than normal or disturbed sleep. Either way, once the need becomes apparent, consult your list and follow through. And that is all that we have for you today. But if you have any self-care tips, please let us and other people who are looking know down in the comments below. We would love to hear from you. In the meantime, take care of yourself, your friends, and your neighbors. It's the adult thing to do. Did that get brighter?
Yep. That was keynote getting warm.
It's okay. I'll fix it in post. Just put like a, this is the trick I always use in Vlog Brothers if something drastically changes, just a full screen graphic, real quick. Like I like cuddles, so I'm out for those. For instance, my friend T. Michael Martin, the Dowd? They may not always be available, but odds are if they're a good friend, they'll do their best to do their part. Okay, that was holding me back. What is up with this cup? How could you possibly? What?
Okay, so just like he said, self-care is important. Self-care is any activity that we're going to do that's going to improve our mental, physical, or spiritual well-being. So you intentionally do it. It is you taking care of you. It is you making you time. Now, granted, you might have to pencil this into your calendar. You might have to put a reminder on your calendar at work that pops up and tells you to go for a walk, but by all means, do it. So the 3 pillars that I'm going to touch on, is this making appearances periodically throughout the week? Yeah. So we're going to talk about mental health, physical health, and your spiritual health. So the first is mental health. I'm going to tell you a story of somebody that I knew who was a teacher, loved his job, very type A personality, so very organized, very self-motivated, hit deadlines, just fantastic employee, right? Well, that's good to some extent, except he started to check his email all the time, started volunteering for other things across campus, started taking on more job duties, and eventually started working on the weekends, even though he wasn't required to, but just did. So eventually, of course, that's going to lead to stress and anxiety. And with the stress and anxiety came I don't know, I will say maybe a little bit of paranoia, like just really overly concerned about what was going on and was he doing a good enough job and what were people thinking and was he doing enough, period. Well, he was failing to what I call set boundaries. And I want you to understand that it's totally okay to say no. It doesn't make you a bad employee. It makes you more available to the things that you're able to do and put more energy and time into those things that you want to do. So at some point, stopped exercising, stopped taking time out for himself, got to the point to where he had so much anxiety, started thinking he was having palpitations, went to the doctor, ended up getting a Holter monitor on, wore it for 3 days. Holter monitors are monitors that you wear that basically monitor your cardiac event. So if you have a symptom, you click a button and it'll let the doctor know if you have an abnormality in your EKG. So went to the doctor, did that, everything was completely fine. Had a panic attack at work, had to call an ambulance, went to the ER, and it was all from anxiety. So that was, that can happen. So just as he said, burnout. Burnout is huge. My profession, huge burnout. There are so many nurses I know who say they're going to leave the profession and never come back. So just keep that in mind, that it's very important for you guys to take out time for you, no matter what. And it's hard. It's very hard. So some things or tips, I would say. Give me some examples of ways that you personally right now manage your mental health, or maybe goals that you can set for yourself, or tips for just anybody that could maybe help with your mental health. Yeah.
Practice your hobbies.
Yeah, absolutely. Do something you enjoy doing. Gardening, walking, biking.
I do a bullet journal and journaling.
Did you say journal?
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
When I'm in more stress situations where I'm more anxious, usually I have to step back and just close my eyes and breathe.
Right, definitely meditation. Or just taking a second to walk away. I know people I work with have crawled under their desks because they have been so anxious and just had to shut their door, lock it, and breathe. So maybe right now you haven't experienced situations like that, but eventually you probably will. It's just inevitable with as crazy and as busy as life is now. Yes?
So
Yeah, just going outside and going for a walk.
Listening to music?
Yeah, absolutely, listening to music. Having a dance party in your kitchen with your children. I might do that. Guilty. All of those things are great. Some other tips. So, like I said, set a time aside each day for you. Whether that means you get up in the morning and do it, whether that means you take your lunch break and do it in the evening, do it whenever fits your schedule. Take up a new hobby, or maybe just focus on a hobby that you have that you want to do more. You like to paint, you like to garden, you have a huge interest in animals, something like that. Unplug. Turn off your cell phone, turn off your TV. Sorry, that was work. So leave work at work too. If it's at all possible, when you're done, go home and leave it there because it'll be there tomorrow. And I know that's hard for teachers. I taught at the university in Kansas, so I understand that it's very hard. You want to go home, you want to check your emails, you want to get your grading done, you want to get things ready for the next day, but just, it'll be there tomorrow. Unless it's your planning and preparation, then by all means do that. So use positive self-talk. Being positive, which is something we're focusing on right now at work because the morale is super low. So turning everything into a positive situation and just maybe giving a compliment to somebody, or maybe it's sending out an email to a friend, a coworker that's just uplifting and kind of sets the mood for your day. Do yoga. So yoga will definitely tune you in a little bit in meditation to self-awareness, and you might find things out about yourself that you might not have known before. It just makes you have that time to sit and think. I really like essential oils, and there's a lot of research that backs essential oils. So there's, lavender specifically has been proven clinically to help reduce stress and anxiety. They make them in pill forms, they make them in rub-on, they just make them in everything, diffusers, things like that. So if that's something that's your thing, there's a lot of research and a lot of good books out there about it. So that was pillar number 1, mental health. Number 2, physical health. So I never really became interested in any type of physical activity. I was not in any sports when I was in high school until I had children. And that is when I took a big interest in it. So I believe more in holistic health. So if somebody were to come into the clinic and say that they struggle with anxiety, I would rather personally see somebody who's going to treat you as a whole. So we're not just going to give you a pill and say, hey, here you go, have fun, deal with your anxiety. We're going to think of a way to give you tools and different instruments to help deal and cope with that anxiety and stress before hopefully we would do any kind of medication, right? So, physical activity. How many minutes a week do you think the American Heart Association says you should have of physical activity?
Just per week or per day?
Per week. Yeah.
Probably 40 to 20 because they say you get 60 minutes a day.
Say what? I say a little more. Say it again.
4:20 a week because they say you get 60 a day.
So 4:20. I don't know what 4:20 what. Okay. So they give you a range. So they say 150 minutes to 300 minutes of moderate physical activity, 75 minutes of vigorous physical activity. So moderate is walking, it's mowing, it's gardening. It's any activity that you can do to get up and move that you can comfortably talk through. So that is what moderate is considered. Vigorous is like running, rowing, anything that makes you sweat, pant, hard to breathe through, right? Also, lifting weights is important because it contributes to bone health. So overall, these are just tools and things and ways to make you feel better. All, of course, to take care of yourself so you can actually go to work and have good classroom management skills and take care of your students. So another thing, of course, is your diet. So I particularly believe in a plant-based diet. I'm not here to tell you what kind of diet you should eat or what foods you should eat. I just want you to take that into consideration that everything you eat will affect you at a cellular level, like in your body, to help fuel you for your day. So I could really get on a soapbox about it, but I won't. Just think as plants is anything that grows, right, and rots, you should be able to eat no matter what. I don't really feel like somebody should tell you should only have, 2 servings of fruit. If it's all natural, it's gonna help you. It's healthy for you. So plants also support your immune health. Are you guys tired of these masks yet? They support your immune health, so they will help fight against disease. They eat foods that are anti-inflammatory, things that will work more at the cellular level for your body to help prevent any type of future heart disease or anything like that. So, does anybody anybody really into any sports or anything now? What do you do?
I do basketball, track, and I'm really involved in MMA. So.
That's awesome. Mm-hmm.
Well, it's not really a sport, but it is physical activity. I'm into marching band.
Yeah, I definitely consider that physical activity. Absolutely. What do you do? What do you play?
Oh, I play percussion, mainly quads or quids.
Cool. That's awesome. Who else? You had your hand raised.
Yep. Rugby.
Oh, boy. Oh, man. Rugby. My husband did rugby for a while. The most brutal sport I think there might be. Oh, I understand. I understand completely. But, yeah. My husband coached rugby for a while, so. Other things with your diet. Drinking and smoking. Don't smoke, and that's all I have to say about that. Don't vape. That's all I'm going to say about that. Drinking, do it in moderation, right? Because that will definitely affect how you feel the next day, and I understand we're all going to go, maybe not, have a drink here or there socially. Totally fine, in moderation, okay? Just overall processed foods. Try to stay away. So it's a really good, like if you think about the grocery store, like shop the outer circle of your grocery store. Get your produce and your veggies. If you want to eat meat and stuff like that, it's all along the outside of the grocery store. Shop rarely on the inside if you're not, unless you're doing like, dry beans or rice or something like that, or whole grains. And this is just fun fact. How many grams of added sugar does the American Heart Association say you should have per day? Yeah.
Is it 0?
No, they allow you a little bit. They do, they allow you a little bit. So they say no more than an extra 100 calories per day, which ends up being 6 teaspoons, which is 24 grams. So just go put 6 teaspoons in a cup and look at how much that is. And this is added. This isn't natural sugar. This is like the processed added candy bars and drinks. And how many grams of sugar do you think is in a Coke? 12-ounce can of Coke.
30.
Close.
Isn't it 42?
Close. It's 39. So you're already over. I mean, I'm guilty. I let my kids have sugar, but I do try to limit it. It's hard. It's very hard, but just to make you think about that. Also Gatorade. I hate to say it. Gatorade as well. 34 grams of sugar in 20 ounces. So we talked about exercise, your mental health, your physical health. Your sleep also, I'm going to throw that into with physical just because it's very important to sleep. It's recommended that adults get 7 hours per night. So if you're not rested, your body's not recovered, and you're not ready to go and teach, right? I don't know what grades you guys want to teach, but amazing, because I could not be a teacher for little children. It's a lot of work. It's exhausting. I go in for like Valentine's Day parties, and 30 minutes later, I'm like ready for a nap. So, that's awesome. I'm happy you guys want to do that. So yeah, definitely make sure you sleep. Spiritual health, that is kind of the glue that just brings everything together. when we talk about spiritual health, it's just something that you hold dear morally and ethically. It can be different for everybody, but it's kind of the value that you base your life on and that you live on. So if you really love volunteering, you know, that's an example. If you love like United Way or something like that, if you like to socially contribute or volunteer your time for something or a good cause, things like that. That's kind of where the spirituality kind of pillar falls under that. So, just a tidbit at the end, I'm going to ask you guys 3 questions, and I have coffee gift cards. Just because I think that's fun, and who doesn't like coffee? So I'm going to give you guys a handout, and oh, you're amazing. I might have other stuff at the back, but. Okay. So I want you to kind of think about it, fill it out. I'm going to give you 5 minutes, and just to make you kind of more self-aware, it's just an exercise for you to kind of go, oh yeah, this is what I love, this is my passion, these are the people who are important and supportive in my life. And believe me, like making it to the point where you learn to take care of yourself and say no, it takes a lot of work and it's not easy. I've had to read several books. So don't ever feel bad for saying no or taking care of yourself. Okay, now I want people to share. What did you put? Things that are important to you. This is specific to you, not just things in general. Yes?
So for mine, I tried doing Headspace.
Mm-hmm.
It's really useful. I like doing daily affirmations, so where it's just like telling myself that, you know, I'm doing the best I can.
Right.
Kind of stuff. It's kind of weird, but I like reading my horoscope. I don't know, I feel like it helps me. If it's something positive, it helps me like start my day like, or if it's something negative, it helps me like, okay, I'm not going to let that affect me.
Mm-hmm.
I like doing breathing exercises, and I like journaling.
Awesome. I'm just going to learn some tips too while you guys tell me what you like to do. I like some of those. Anybody else? Yes.
Kind of similar to affirmations, I said positive self-talk, ignoring like internal negativity and constructing myself,
Mm-hmm.
and just building myself up.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that all kind of fits into one category.
Mm-hmm. No, absolutely. Yes. Either one of you ladies up there.
For the body one, I said setting or continuing to set aside time to practice like soccer or just go on runs,
Mm-hmm.
clear my mind, which I think kind of is mind and body.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, yes.
I like journaling, like not necessarily like writing stories or anything like that, but writing down into my head and then organizing the thoughts that I wrote down.
Mm-hmm.
And with that, I don't know where it would fall under, but like organizing in general, like doing different things around the house that cleans things up and organizes them in different ways.
Yeah, definitely. You like feeling organized? Yeah. Yeah.
I feel like with music as a way when I'm stressed, but specifically thunderstorms and stuff, big powerful storms sometimes cause me to be really anxious around. So I do a lot of, I lay in like one of our local groups and I just put on music and I kind of, sometimes I do some like breathing-ish exercises.
Mm-hmm.
That just helps like almost kind of ignoring what's happening or just calming myself.
Yeah, definitely. What do they call that now? Where like kids, it's really popular. Like kids listen to it. Yeah, yeah. My kids do that. Yeah, I know. I don't. I'm not into that, but they do like it, so it's fine. Yeah.
That's a therapy for mine.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Don't ever be afraid to ask for help. That's your first step. And a therapist is a wonderful tool because it's somebody who is giving you an outside perspective. There is absolutely nothing wrong with that. And let me just tell you as a nurse, if you would to ever come into a clinic and come to seek help for anything, I don't think I have ever heard a nurse talk bad about a patient because they're actually coming for help. That is something that's actually, you know, kudos to you if you can admit that, because that's kind of the first step, even if it's just to help talk through something.
For spirit, I said I'm kind of a hippie in the sense that I really try to find the peace in basically everything, no matter the situation. And I try to like find peace in the chaos, basically.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. I made my self-care plan, except I used pretty markers. So, you know, just you could even use this to set goals for yourself. Yeah, over here it gives you things to accomplish or things that you love. Yeah.
For medication.
Under?
Oh, no. Mind.
Yeah. So medication as in what kind of medication, particularly?
Like for your health?
Mm-hmm. So like supplements?
No, like doctor prescribed?
Yeah, so yeah, I mean, there is always a time when definitely you may need a medication for a certain thing, and just be compliant. Obviously, if your prescriber thinks you need it, do as advised, please, and just take your meds like you should. So with all of this, we're gonna kind of transition into the classroom management. I'm gonna show you a video of poor classroom management.
So you look at that and you go, I want to be a baker, right? So if you play it again real quick, and I'll tell you when to pause it. Watch the teacher here. Pay close attention. That's why I love videos, you really go back. So watch what the teacher does over here. And you see a cluster of kids here, hand clap, point. All right, go ahead and pause it. All right, look at the teacher. All right, so we talk about self-care. This is the beginning of the erosion of self-care as an educator, which often drives teachers out of classrooms, is because why do I have to manage somebody else's issues? Like, why can't you kind of correct this at home? And so we talk about managerial pieces. Mental health, physical health, and self-care. Teachers do not do a good job of self-care. Like, for example, there'll become a Friday, and you're standing in front of a salad wishing it was nachos. Because you just want to dive into poor decisions because of the week. So when I was a teacher in elementary school, they had this chart, and it showed the 21-year-old teacher. And through the week, she was teaching and dragging, but by Friday she was out clubbing. Then it showed the veteran teacher of 30 years. And through the week making it, by Friday they were in bed by 5:30 because of the differences. I taught with a teacher named Mrs. Lawson, who taught in that same building I was at for over 47 years. And she was the sole provider, one income for her family. Her husband didn't ever want to work, so she had to raise her family off her income. So her erosion of self-care came that she could no longer walk. She wore herself out that her feet were gone. And she said, I wish I'd taken better care of myself as a teacher. But by Friday comes, I'm so exhausted, I'm so mentally drained that I can't even think about getting on a walk or a bike and pushing myself through that type of that stress and trauma. I had a good friend that his self-care was every morning, by ritual, was this huge, like 64-ounce mug of Mountain Dew. And I used to ask him, I said, does that come with an undertow? And he'd laugh. Well, over time, how did it sneak up and get him? He became diabetic. He lived off sugar. Well, his quality of life. He didn't have a big toe amputated, a small toe amputated, because he didn't take care of himself. So he never learned to let the managerial issues go after he left the class. So if you look at the teacher here in this situation, she's hurting. Well, there's an old Chinese proverb. If you chase 2 rabbits at the same time, you'll lose them both. How many rabbits is she chasing? Right, so she's not really set the kind of managerial rules she needs for her classroom so that she's healthy. So I've been given advice through the years. 1, don't crack a smile until Christmas as a teacher. I've heard that, but that was really old advice. You have the first 2 weeks to set the rules. After the first 2 weeks, you've lost them. They're gone for good the rest of the year. You can't go back into November and December and simply say, this is wearing me out. We need to have some rules in this class. Because the first time you argue with a 5-year-old or 8-year-old, you lost. Because you can't reason with something that can't be reasoned with. Because they don't get reasoned. So it gets into the piece of a managerial type, because if you get into 4 domains of Charlotte Danielson, the first domain is planning and preparation. So if you're not planned and prepared, then your second domain will be garbage. So if you're not planned and prepared, your second domain is called classroom environment. So if your classroom environment is a mess, then your third domain will be useless. And your third domain is instruction. Because if you're not planned and prepared and your classroom's a mess, no one will listen to anything you have to say. Are those kids really tracking with her? So let's talk about, is she planned and prepared? What's her classroom environment? It's chaos, madness. You know? So then what's happening during her instruction? Absolutely nothing. She's lost the group. She would actually have to reboot this class. And then kids are going to feel threatened and hurt. You've never treated me this way. Because she's overcome by grief. I've never met a teacher that never saw a therapist. Many teachers I know went to therapy. Because they needed to tell somebody that was not like their partner or somebody that was kind of neutral to tell them, how do you keep from throwing them against the wall? You know, honestly, I mean, there's times where you don't know what to do, but you're trapped legally with these kids. So I know a guy who went through a divorce. He dropped over 30 pounds, so his self-care was gone. He lost his group in 8th grade, or 7th grade. He's a 7th grade teacher. And you could see the kids take over. They started setting in their rules. They started setting in their policies. Well, he had a bad fight breakout. Well, he was responsible for it. And because of that, he lost his teaching license. Because he never maintained his self-care through the crisis of a divorce or his own personal thing. So what do? One, there's always Red Bull, is what you see. You always have a mini fridge in your thing. Some people with Red Bull, but that's bad, sugar-free, non-sugar-free. But you've got to really set your own personal goals as a teacher that goes through the protocols of the process of I come first. So the first thing you identify is your classroom is either your kingdom or queendom, or whatever you want to name it. And I have to make sure that I take care of myself before I arrive every single day. So what does that mean? Routine. If you're skipping breakfast, you're fasting and you're not eating, that's okay. But there's a real long window from wake-up time to lunch. And that's what I call the death zone. Because if you're going to walk in the death zone of not eating before you wake up, between when you wake up and then lunch, there's a chance you won't get lunch. Because they need somebody that's shorthanded to go walk the kids down to the lunchroom. And your principal tells you can get caught up on your lunch during your plan time. But your principal's new and doesn't realize you already had your plan time. Then you're assigned recess duty. So now you're hungry, you're lightheaded, you're shaky, and you're now getting into teaching science after lunch. Their bellies are full, yours is empty. So what do you do after class or in between breaks? You shovel food inside your mouth, whatever you can get to. Well, then your blood sugar goes crazy, your insulin goes off the chart, and then by 4 o'clock, you have a headache. And your kids are non-manageable because you couldn't manage yourself. So you actually have to be stingy. So what does that mean? I know all of my former students that I taught, many of them to this day they prepare all their meals on Sunday. You don't like to work on Sunday, work on Saturday. They prepare them all, freeze them. Even if it's open, they freeze open. They prepare food in jars, mason jars. And they have a fridge in their room. The first thing they buy, I tell them, is buy a fridge for your room. Because what I used to do for science lessons is I'd have students swab the teacher's lounge fridge. Because there's stuff in there growing that you couldn't identify. You know, they needed, you know, like the commercial, we have ants. And all these ants are over going expired, 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 expired. Because teacher lounges are great places, 1, to get sick, 2, to get ulcers, and 3, to get some type of digestive infraction, or it's called food poisoning. Have a fridge in your room. Have it fully stocked. Ask for that for graduation. What do you want for graduation? I want a really good small fridge. Not the cubicle, the little taller one. So I can stock it. So that I can fill that with a piece. Okay, so you're good to go. Then that means there's no excuse that you can start taking into your class. Like I tell anybody, I don't care whatever you do as a teacher. The only one thing I ask anybody does as a teacher is every single day, without skipping, you're outside that door and you greet every kid walking through that classroom. That means that you're ready to go, if you can do that. All your lesson plans are complete. You've made all your copies. You're not that one teacher that went to Western Oregon University or Southern and they're really unorganized and they're making copies at the last minute. Whereas you went to Eastern Oregon University and you already have everything set. Nice and neat and stacked. You can pull anything. You can detect what dust bunny is new and which spider in the window has grown a beard since last year. Because you know your classroom really, really well. So then, you're greeting each kid through the doorway as they walk through. Oh, a black eye. Oh, eyes are bloodshot. You didn't sleep last night. As you greet every child through the classroom, as they enter your queendom or kingdom, you're getting an idea of what you're going to deal with that day. And you'll be the only one in the hallway. That's it. Because excellent teachers change their bulletin boards weekly, all the time, to set the theme of the little units they're going to be teaching. And they're monitoring every kid that comes in through that door every morning. And they're taking mental notes. Oh, I love your dress. That's great. Because you might be the only person that's commenting on that dress ever. You got your phone on page. I see that. Good job. So you're setting a management so these kids can develop fidelity. They're already going through resilience. They're trying to be a resilient person. They're going through trauma, whether it's complex trauma or acute trauma, or other different types of variables in their lives. And you detect that as they walk through your classroom. Because if you don't care, and you don't care about your own self-care, and you've let yourself go, then what do you think you're going to think about the quality of your planning and preparation, your classroom environment, your instruction, and then the last 4 domain is your teacher professionalism. You failed kind of as a professional. We have dark days, absolutely. Like I told you, breaking up a gang fight, I have scars on my arm still from breaking this massive fight up. Or having a kid walking down the hallway and go, come here, what's wrong? He's like, you can't tell Miss Inez. I'm like, don't worry, I will. But I really said, don't worry, I won't. He was like, I got shot last night. And I'm like, well, I don't want you to show me, because then I'm going to go to jail. But have you been to the nurse? No, because I don't want to go home, because then the police will be called. I'm like, did you do shooting? He's like, no. He was walking around with a bullet in his leg. It's infected. He was limping. Or the time that we broke up a fight between 2 guys, and in my middle school, we had a Wichita police officer named Winston. And he was built like Thanos, if you know what. He was that big. He was huge. And we got the 2 kids apart, and one of the kids got his hand on his pistol, and I'm right here walking with another kid, and I saw the kid get the hand on the pistol. before he could say something, of course he's a trained cop, got the hand off, grabbed the kid and put him into the lockers, handcuffed him, the kid never returned to school. Being in the hallway, I was always in the hallway as a middle school teacher because I took care of myself. I mountain biked. I always worked out. Always watched what I ate. And I was always like, why am I the only one in the hallway? Because I learned that from teaching elementary schools. I look down the hallway and I see a kid named Kenny, my kid, duck down, get his books. And I saw another kid look down the hallway, out of his coat, grabbed a brick of narcotics and put it in there. And when Kenny came up, I'm pulling it out, and he's looking at it, and he goes, that's not mine! And I said, come with me. I went to Mrs. Wren and said, I found this. Here's the story. And she looked at me, and she goes, you're done. Now go back to your classroom. Because she knew the seriousness of it. Well, we didn't know as teachers. They were running dogs in up and down the hallways during certain times looking for the drug trade. But the parents were so smart, they were having their kids sell the drugs in markers. So they'd haul out a marker and fill it full of substance. Dogs couldn't pick it up. So it took being alert, not being like, oh, I didn't sleep last night. I was on YouTube, I'm exhausted, being alert, being prepared, eating healthy, to pick that up. Well, the sad thing is, the student that put that in the locker was taken out of custody. Mom and dad were arrested, went to jail, placed him with the state, and then they put him on lithium. So by the time he came back as a student, he gained 90 pounds. He was lethargic. It was a test of the state. Other ways where you're going to pick stuff up are scents and smells of kids. I had a student that I always would see, and she would come in. Finally, I went to Mrs. Todd, who was our elementary school psychologist, and I said, I got a student's coat that smelled like dog urine every day. And she was like, what do we do? And I'm like, well, she's going to go home with a dog urine coat, or she's going to wear a dog urine coat. So every day she came into the class, I would get Maria and take her, grab the coat, Marcia Todd would take it. She would run home when she was ready to go to school and she'd wash it. We washed this girl's coat almost every single day. But by being mentally alert, but here's the piece. Now, how do you close that mental health piece when you go home with friends? You know, we used to want to have shirts. You know you worked at Anderson Elementary if you, and all these lists down on the back. But we never did, you know. We were one of the first schools to get smart boards. And I watched Alton James pull a smart board off and throw it across the room with the teeth. Remember, he was in 5th grade, and he was going to the 12th. Alton's now in state penitentiary for a double homicide. So you have that your type of mental piece. But how do you not turn to kind of a way of life that leads to mental decay, health decay, and you still say it's important that I'm a teacher? And as you manage things like the video you saw, you'll consistently see things are manageable. A quote I've always used is what you permit, you promote. If you permit yourself to talk about kids in the teacher's lounge to other teachers behind their backs, you'll promote it. If you permit yourself to go home, get down, feel sorry for yourself, you'll promote it, your self-care. If you permit yourself to say, I'm going to keep my chin up, I'm going to keep being there for these kids, you'll promote it. If you permit yourself to create programs within your classroom, like Big Buddy and Big Sister Systems with high school athletes, to come and tutor kids, you'll promote it. It's a lot of work. If you permit yourself to consistently just, not feeling like you're adequate enough to meet the needs of these kids, you'll promote it, you'll leave the profession. I've seen a lot of people like, what are you doing? Oh, I sell pharmaceuticals. I have a friend who sells Hilti concrete guns. He was a high school teacher. He couldn't handle the fact that he taught in a small town, and he'd get home from school, and the door knocked, and there'd be like 3 teenage girls asking if they could come in. But we don't go to jail. He was a very attractive teacher, and these girls tried to come to his home a lot to hang out with Mr. Morgan. He finally said, I can't do this. I can't teach anymore. It drove him into a mental state that he thought eventually rumors would begin. And there would be falsifications. He ended up in prison. All because he was a young, good-looking teacher. You know? So I've had good friends that have left the teaching profession because they just couldn't handle the mental peace. They hunted urban to rural, rural to private, and they found out some of them found out private was worse. The kids had a lot of money and resources so they could afford high-end drugs like cocaine and ecstasy and stuff like that. And he couldn't handle that piece of it, so he floated out. You know, kind of got a job working in marketing. So it does wear you out. There's a type, but if you can beat it, you can. If you think you can't, you can. As she shared, you can take care of yourself for a quality life, because other than that, no one's going to do it for you. Because you consistently think of yourself as the leader in the classroom. And kids are smart. They can predict when a teacher has got bloodshot eyes, they're tired, they yawn a lot, they're watching too many videos. Kids pick up patterns. It's like our 5th video we watch this week. What's going on at home? You're like, oh no, we're 3 days from Thanksgiving. There's a rule that we can do this because I need to say it. And then summer comes. And then that's when you never check your email and you disappear. And you reboot for the fall. And it gets good. So in your packet you have a thing called the Classroom Management Cookbook. We developed that because I wanted to write that 20 years ago. I felt like if you could learn classroom management like you would learn to cook, it'd be easy. So if you look at the first recipe, it's ratatouille.
Oh. Oh, I'm on it.
Tell them about it. Don't they have it with them?
Nope, it's right here in your Canvas shell.
It's in the, it's in your Canvas shell?
Yes.
To save trees.
Oh, God.
Yes.
So it's in your Canvas shell. So we wanted to write a cookbook so that neophyte new teachers, even veteran teachers, can try different classroom management strategies by shifting the ingredients. And to do that, it took a lot. So if you think about ratatouille, that is a French summer ends and school begins meal. And that's true. And so you think about how you're developing, what you promote, ingredients, adjusting amounts as needed to adapt to your taste. So you go through your ingredients, go, do I have values in this lesson? Do I have values for all? Are there values for me? Am I organized? Do I have 2 cups of respect in this? How much passion? A 1/4 cup, I need to add that up to one cup of passion in this lesson. 2 cups of care. How am I caring about myself after I teach this lesson? Inquiry and explorations. A pinch of humor. A large stock pot of water. 1 milliliter smiles. So you think about this. You're teaching yourself how to teach through smiling, equity, culture responsive best practices. You can go to other recipes if you'd scroll down, and you can see that we've developed 7 recipes. This one is the Flavor Star, scaffolding your flavors, so salty, sweet, sour, bitter, and spice. Bam, you can get where that came from. So you can look at this type of style of stay off the internet and teach in a teachable moment, turn into the kid, kind and nice version of Sauron from the Lord of the Rings, the ever-watching eye, because that's what you are in that classroom. Emotional serenity, stay cool, stay present. Do not let your emotions get away from you. Use the whole bag of that there. Show respect, be positive. Respect other people's space, other teachers. So these ingredients are really like teaching you how to set up your classroom in a way to teach your lessons in those environments. And you need to shift ingredients around as you develop those lessons. And use these recipes, because sometimes when we cook, we're like, you know, I didn't like the ingredient of ketchup on ramen noodles. So instead I'm going to use maybe some sriracha hot sauce. Because every lesson you teach will need to be reshaped, need to be redeveloped. There's no like lesson plan vending machine that's perfect, because you're delivering it to human subject. But as you go through this process, you get into sloppy joes. Maintain your instructions, allow your pedagogy, andragogy, and hedagogy roar to glow. During expected change or crisis, teachers are often focused on the lesson plan's timeline. And this can create emotional turmoil, and the quality of the lesson starts to erode. So get grounded, prioritize, and focus. Today, right now, one day at a time, avoid the negative. Take short breaks. Breathe. My favorite break when I taught elementary was dear. Drop everything and read. And all I had to say is dear time, and the kids, because I could tell the stress in the math, I'd say dear. And every kid would drop, go to a little comfort area in the class. I had like a little bunk bed with curtains down. They'd get under that. They'd get an old clawfoot tub that I had the side cut out. And I would read. I would read my favorite newspaper. That would cut the tension, drop everything and read. And that's what that does. You get into paella, and we talk about the different ingredients that make up your classroom. Not everybody's the same. It's like a big pot of paella. A different cognition, different cultures, different values. We talk about state of calm, counteracting cynical news. People come in, like my classroom, boom, boom, boom. Hey, Mr. Seimears, I need to see you real quick. Yeah? Someone just threw 2 planes into the towers of New York. Okay. Was that bad? Go back in and start teaching. Then you go into the lounge. People are crying. World War III. I didn't take it literally. Like I thought like these planes were one propeller planes. Like, you know, these train planes, they were planes. 911. The lady who taught me to teach English, she said she was teaching. And all of a sudden, her entire side of the classroom, the books just fell onto the ground. And she went, oh my, let's keep learning. It could be an earthquake. And her principal came in the room and said, we have 2 student teachers. And she goes, yeah. And she goes, most of your kids' parents are in the Mura building in here in Oklahoma City. It was just bombed. And she went, oh. And both student teachers' parents perished. But she had to keep on teaching. And most of the kids' parents that were in that building perished. And she had to keep on teaching. Her name's Karen Rogers. And she said, how do you teach through fear? When you know these kids' parents could be deceased. And then she said the next day, who returned to her classroom was a scary sight. And she had to take a break from teaching for 2 years because she had a nervous breakdown because she witnessed that. She knew that she could have told her student teachers, hey, you need to get out of here. There was a bombing in Oklahoma City in 95. I know your parents worked there. She did. She didn't want to pay for the class. She blamed herself, had a nervous breakdown, and almost never returned to teaching. She went back for 1 year, and then she went into higher ed. So think about that. My time is up. Anything else?
So on there as well, there is a YouTube video for tips for classroom management. Watch it at your leisure. But I do want to do my gift cards because we haven't done that yet. Thank you. We went through some of this, but I'm just going to go ahead and ask. Raise your hand if you can give me an example of a goal that you've set for yourself in the future that you're going to do for self-care, yes, orange shirt.
I am going to journal.
Journal, perfect. Do you like Dutch Bros or Sorbonauts?
Dutch.
So do my children. I have yet to find something there I like. There you go. So tell me a way that you can, if you find yourself getting overwhelmed and having burnout, what are you going to do for yourself to prevent that from happening?
I find doing my hobbies like drumming. Drumming is a very great way for me to like de-stress because it's almost like someone who lifts weights when they get mad. Mm-hmm. It helps just get it all out.
Man, I wish Matt wouldn't have left. There was a movie about a kid who was an exceptional musician, and he went to a really good school, and his teacher pushed him. Anyway, it was a really good movie. I don't know the name of it, but you should watch it.
Dutch Bros.
Dutch Bros. Oh man. All right, we got Sorbonauts. Is anybody local here? Everybody local? No. Okay, one more question and. Takeaway, what is one thing that you think you may implement in the future as teachers to help with your classroom management skills?
I like that idea of the deer, like they can
Right.
stress, because you can tell on their faces, and having a key word that actually just can drop what they're doing.
Right.
Have a release, like realize it's not always about the grades, that they need to take care of themselves too.
Yeah, absolutely. And
So trivia.
oh man.
What Oregon writer was the originator of Drop Everything and Read? She ended up growing up in Oregon and then moved to California. Became a very famous children's author. Yep. Beverly Cleary.
Nice. Good job, guys. All right, well, thank you for your time. Enjoy the rest of your week. Don't die of heat.
Yes,